Hey, so this is my funny, ostensibly, faith/doubt origin story. So I wrote this for my Substack on the day that this video came out on Jubilee Media, which is, they have 8 million subscribers. It's Gen Z's favorite reality TV. If you're over 40, it's completely invisible from you algorithmically. Anyway, I filmed with them a Christians versus ex-Christians video. And it wasn't really a versus, it was more of a conversation. It actually was quite a lovely conversation. Anyway, I hadn't watched the whole thing, and I still haven't watched the whole thing. It dropped on December 24th, which is also my girlfriend's birthday. Coincidentally, same birthday as Jesus, even though they almost never have parties together. So I actually hadn't watched the whole thing. Maybe sometime I'll do a reaction video. I don't know. You're required by law to do that. But anyway, I thought that I would write something about my faith and doubt origin story, because most folks know that I used to be a nun, but they didn't know that I grew up in evangelical. All right. I have a ridiculously layered religious history. A typical reaction to anyone's story within the zigzag of my overall spiritual odyssey is a hesitant, wait, what? Wait, when did this all start? My relationship with God has always been as if I were a 9th grade band geek and God is the handsome, popular, but oblivious to me, varsity football team captain. Why doesn't he notice me, I'd say to my friends. Can't he just notice me? I'm wearing the jersey he says to wear. See, I'm on his team. Look, I learned all the football and memorized the playbook. Why doesn't he like me yet? I'll have sex with him under the bleachers if only he would notice me. I mean, I guess the metaphor falls apart if you push it too hard, or maybe it doesn't. Anyway, mentioning my evangelical heritage is confusing to folks, and by folks I mean audiences at stand-up shows and people with whom I'm on a first date, because I'm forever prattling on about being a Roman Catholic nun, an ex-Roman Catholic nun. That's kind of important. I was raised born again and converted to Catholicism to make this nun business happen. How could I be expected to have such a fraught relationship with a deity who may or may not exist, courtesy of just one branch of Christianity? No, one was not enough. All right, I learned, when I was in kindergarten, I learned in Sunday school about Matthew 17:20. If you have faith, even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. I felt strangely confident I must have at least mustard seed-sized faith. I didn't know the relative size of a mustard seed. In fact, a mustard seed could have jumped out from behind any cow in my Wisconsin childhood, said, boo. And I would have perhaps been frightened, but I definitely wouldn't have known that it was a mustard seed that frightened me. When I got home, I stood in the backyard and stared at the hill that loomed close behind our house. I arranged the features on my face to what I hoped was a faith-filled, expectant expression. Let's see if I can do it. Pause for a moment and said quietly but confidently, move from here, and then I pointed to the current where the hill was, to here. I lifted my arm high up and then sharply to the right, gesturing like a tiny orchestra conductor. Like a tidy, bonkers-looking orchestra conductor, I imagine. To my shock and great dismay, the hill, perhaps you guessed this already, did not move from here to there. It didn't so much as quiver. I ran into the kitchen where my mom was attempting to prepare dinner. She listened as I told her between great heaving sobs, I don't have as much faith as a mustard seed. Do you know what a mustard seed is? I don't know why in this story my mom has a Midwestern accent and I don't. I didn't, of course, but her practicality in the face of my spiritual predicament felt entirely uncalled for, and also not the point at all. I continued to cry, even though this behavior was, in my family, like many other Midwestern families in the 70s, an excellent way to be given something to cry about. My mom continued to chop vegetables. There was a bunch of us. If she stopped cooking every time a kid was distressed, we might have starved. I told the hill behind our house to move. More, you guessed it, sobs. And my mom interrupted. She had to get the eggplant into the fryer, and this existential crisis was dragging a bit in the middle. Let me guess, it did move. My response was nodding and sobbing. Have you ever noticed that the front part of our first floor has windows and the back part doesn't? I stopped crying because I hadn't been expecting the pop quiz about what I'd observed in my surroundings. People and feeling I always noticed. Random objects, the location of my shoes or my backpack, and where we kept chore-related items like a garden hose or haying rake, I never did. The hill isn't behind our house. Our house is built into the hill. If the hill had moved, our house would have crumbled. She spooned Crisco into the fryer without looking up. We'd all be dead now. She shrugged and then signaled the conversation was over by applying the all-purposeful, all-powerful, pragmatic theological truism. I guess it just wasn't, she handed me plates to begin setting the table, God's perfect will. She dipped the eggplant in egg and breadcrumbs while I pondered how close I'd come to visiting a gruesome death upon my parents and siblings. It was the very first time I had an inkling that perhaps a lack of faith could be safer than having too much.